Shazam. Here is a character that I don't think many people would have expected to be so prominent in the public eye over the past couple of years. This is a character, to me, who has just simply always been there. You understand the simplistic nature of his power. He's a boy that can turn into a man, has magical properties, super strong. He has a moderate amount of respect from the fan base, but he also has a moderate amount of people who don't even really know he exists or don't care that he exists. And I think that's what the community post about Shazam really showed, is a lot of people who really do care about this character and a lot of people who don't care about him at all. There's also this really big debate on what he should be called. Should he be called Shazam? Should he be called Captain Marvel? But let's see what some of your comments had to say. The first comment I want to start with here is Super Johnny, who says Captain Marvel should be a part of the Teen Titans or Young Justice, and we should watch him grow up into a leaguer. But he's kicked off for being too young and has to earn his way back into the league. I like that idea, especially him starting off as a Titan. It would be a situation, I feel, he wouldn't really tell people he's a kid, and he would hide his true identity. Of course, I picture a situation where probably Batman would figure something is off about this random brand new hero who made himself known, and now we're letting him on the Justice League. And eventually they find out he's basically a 12-year-old boy, and they essentially say, yeah, we can't have a kid who can turn into an adult on the team. I certainly think there is a day where Shazam could belong on a league. Now, for me personally, I think he's more suited for a JSA than the actual Justice League. Starting off with Teen Titans, getting to know people who are actually his age would definitely be beneficial for the character. Dogs don't. Personally, I think he should be pulled into Wonder Woman's world, since they share an origin from the same mythology. It can kind of be confusing, and it makes him feel very separate from the rest of the DC universe. Well, I think there's something to be said for that situation, considering their true origin is they were separate from the DC universe. If DC did not buy Fawcett Comics, Shazam and the rest of his character gallery would not be part of the DC universe. They'd have nothing to do with it. They'd be their own thing. And let's be real here, who knows how long Fawcett Comics would have actually lasted. Regardless of that, I actually do agree. I think that's pretty interesting. And whereas the canon world of DC, the canon comic books, they would never do something like that because they need to uphold the history of the Amazonians being only women, and Shazam needs to be his own character. But I will say that would be a really interesting what if story. What if Wonder Woman was not the only child born between Zeus and Hippolyta? If you're going through the godly birth of the characters, what if they had another child, a boy? Would he be living on the island with the rest of the women and his sister Diana? Would he be living up in the heavens with Zeus? Would he live his life as a normal boy in our society, thinking there was nothing different or strange about him? That is a really interesting idea, and I think there's a lot to play around with there. Cecagna. Live-action Captain Marvel in a cinematic universe is simply not possible. The entire narrative and point of his character is that Billy's a literal child in the body of a magic-imbued Giga Chad. Any child actor will inevitably age out of the role within a few years. Animation or bust. And I think that's one of the problems people actually had with the most recent Shazam film. The kid who played Billy was getting older, and it was almost to the point where if you maybe gave him another year or two, he himself could just be playing Shazam. To comment on the inevitable fact that children grow up and eventually you hit a time where you can't be using this same kid to be playing the alter ego of Shazam. The only fix I think you could use to get around that problem, and the problem with this is you would have to plan so far ahead that if it's in a connected universe, things are bound to change. But the only thing I could think of is you would have to film the Shazam movies or the trilogy of his films back to back to back. That way, when you watch these movies over their inevitable release days throughout the years, the kid playing Billy never really ages. Essentially, you would just have to pull a Lord of the Rings. But I don't think Shazam is that big enough or that important enough to convince a studio to say yes to doing something like that. Pig says, not comic related, but I don't understand a lot of the criticism of Zachary Levi's portrayal of the character he has gotten. Him being goofy versus Billy being serious. I understand if you think he's unfunny or don't think he's a good adaptation, but in the context of the films, him acting goofy while Billy acts serious makes complete sense. It's very clear that as Shazam, Billy acts like a kid, something that he tries to do while being Billy. As Shazam, he's free to do whatever he wants. I don't understand how more people don't see that. Now, you can dislike this take, that's fine, but it's weird more people don't understand what they were going with when they were making the films. Yeah, and you make good points. I just think what it is a lot of people don't like the actor. I think Levi has said some things, he's made some comments and made some remarks that a lot of people just don't like him for. And I think a lot of the stuff he did say happened before the second movie dropped. Like the world is today on social media and the internet, everybody is reactionary. Everybody sees 1, 2, 3 words and immediately thinks you're a villain or whatever it might be. So everyone jumped down Zachary Levi's throat. Now, deserved? I don't really know. I don't always pay attention to that stuff, so I couldn't give you exactly the things he has said or the way he has acted. But I think that could be a big reason why all of a sudden people just don't like his variation of Shazam. I liked him in the first one. I think Zachary Levi does a super solid job in the first Shazam film, but the second one, I think it is more so his acting. I don't think his jokes land. I think he overacts at points that just don't need to be overacted in any way, and I think there are a lot of times where he is super obnoxious. It almost feels like what worked in the first one, it's not broken, so don't fix it, and for some reason that's exactly what he did in the second one, and I just wasn't a fan of it. But the essence of the character, yes, you are correct. PatriotmediaFilms. His name shouldn't be Shazam. It doesn't make any sense that he can't say his own name while in costume. I get why they had to change it from Captain Marvel, but in universe, it doesn't work. I agree, it feels very strange. Like, imagine Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern for a moment meeting Shazam for the first time, and let's just take Captain Marvel out of the equation. Let's just say that name does not exist. And they say to him, "Who are you? What's your name? Thanks for your help." And he just says, "It's me. I'm him. I'm that guy." 100%, that is something Shazam would probably say to sound cool and to sound a little more adult. But realistically, to be able to say, "My name's Shazam," that would be super helpful for a lot of people at the beginning. At the very least, maybe what they could do, Shazam makes him grow into Shazam, makes him grow into the superpowered adult that he is. But to go back to his child form, he maybe has to do the reverse route. He has to say Mazas, which is the Earth 3 counterpart of Shazam, but once again, disregarding the multiverse for a second here, maybe you just have to say it backwards. He's not a Batman or a Superman who has different names in a way. The Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader, the world's greatest detective, Man of Steel, Man of Tomorrow. I mean, a little strange. I don't think people would be like, "Hey, yo, it's the Man of Tomorrow." I don't think they're doing that. I'm just giving examples of different names. Yes, he has Captain Marvel, but very often he's just not gone by that name because unfortunately, we have a competing universe in Marvel where they have a character name Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel. It just sounds too close to one another. It's too connecting. I'm going to join up these two comments because they're both around the same lines of kind of what I want to discuss here. Superman Clark Kent. The Shazam family was not needed in my opinion. It would have been cool as like a one-time thing, but as an ongoing gimmick, it's tiring and makes Billy feel less special as a character. And Tommy Johnson says Shazam's power should diminish if he's granting others, his siblings, his power. I can't remember exactly which continuity, but I'm pretty sure they did something like that for a brief time where if he gave his powers out to others, his powers would somewhat diminish, but that didn't last long. When you think about it, it is a little strange that his entire family is just other versions of him. Think about it. If you have Billy as Shazam, Captain Marvel, and then Mary Marvel, all the other Marvels, like, who is honestly stopping this team? Shazam is a character who can go toe-to-toe with Black Adam, being his arch nemesis. He can go toe-to-toe with Superman. Who is stopping these people? And why are they not ever more of a bigger, crazier threat in the DC universe? Not saying Shazams should be bad guys, that's not it. But what I'm saying is, how are they not called into more action to clean up bigger messes? Like, literally all of the time. They're never shown to be having the overreaching power they technically should have when every single one of them is a Shazam. So yes, I do agree with this. He should maybe be losing some of his powers when he gives his powers to others. And honestly, I don't think it should be a family thing. I think it should be him, Mary Marvel, and maybe Freddy. That's it. Afflicks. I'm not 100% sure if this is a hot take, but Shazam Captain Marvel has almost zero actually interesting villains. I've never seen anything with them that proved to me that they're awesome. I love Shazam, but he just doesn't have a good rogues gallery. I think that is just the problem you start to encounter when you get down to the B class of characters. All the top tier characters have some of the best villains, but once you start getting a little bit lower, you start to realize that a lot of these characters maybe have one or two super well-known villains, and that's about it. Thinking off the top of my head right now, Shazam has two villains that are like top tier. Dr. Savannah and Black Adam. I think the more I've done some of these Sinister Six videos on this channel for other DC characters, and the more I've looked at the villains in the DC universe, a lot of these characters would benefit from having brand new, bigger villains. Bruin Sports and Letter Ropes definitely discussed with one another before posting these comments. Bruin says, I think Shazam is a way better character than Superman, and Letter Ropes says Shazam could beat Superman. You guys know where I stand with matchup battles. Whoever the writer is, they're going to choose who they want to be the winner of a specific battle. The outcome is all dependent on who's writing the story. At the end of the day, it would be a really tough battle, but Superman in my mind would come out the winner. But I do believe there are sound reasons why people would say Shazam could beat Superman. I'm not arguing with that at all. As for Shazam being better than Superman, that is another one I disagree with. I think Superman is a far better character in so many ways, although I don't actually think this is much of a bold take as many people believe it to be, because I believe there are actually still a lot of people out in the world today, and I mean a lot of people who do not like Superman. I still think Superman is that character that everyone knows he's the first superhero ever made. Everyone knows the S symbol. Everybody could pick him out from miles away, but that does not mean everybody likes Superman. And maybe there are quite a few people who would actually agree with you on this. Temple, Black Adam is better than Captain Marvel himself. First time in my life that I say the villain is a better character than a hero in this situation. I find myself in a situation every now and then where I do appreciate villains more than I do heroes. One of the biggest IPs I could think of where I feel that way is Star Wars. I tend to find Siths are so much cooler and more interesting than Jedi characters. Even within DC, I think Darkseid is one of the coolest characters in the DC universe, and I would rather have him over a lot of DC superheroes. So I'm no stranger to that personally, but also personally, I could not agree more with this. I think Black Adam is miles beyond better of a character than Billy Batson Shazam. He's got Kahndaq. He's the ruler of Kahndaq. He's got a 5,000 ancient year old history. He's got a bad bitch in ISIS. He's got it all. Okay, guys, now I'm going to give you my unpopular opinion on the character of Shazam. And I saw a couple of the comments here that said something very similar to what I'm gonna say. And that's not just the fact that I think Black Adam is a better character. I actually think Mary Marvel is far better than Billy Batson Shazam as well. I would actually be okay with it if she was front and center of the Shazam family, or if she was the only one who became the Shazam figure. I would actually much rather have a movie or a TV show or an animated series that would be centered on her. I think another reason why I like Mary Marvel as well is because she's a little bit older, in the sense where she still has an immaturity to her. She's still young enough to think she's capable of handling this on her own. She's still this teenager who thinks she's, top shit. She's better than anyone around her, especially now with these abilities. But she's also old enough to understand that she does have more growing up to do. The older she gets, she will one day realize how naive she was. I just love that storyline in Pre-New 52 where she comes back to life. She's wearing a black suit. There's even that time where she gets brainwashed a bit by Darkseid. Like, her story to me was always really interesting. And this is not me saying I hate Billy Batson. This is not me saying I dislike the character. But the way I could best describe my feelings on the character is, So there you go, guys. Some unpopular opinions on the character of Billy Batson Shazam. So if you didn't have the chance to give some unpopular opinions on the character on the community post, now is your chance to do so in the comments below. I also have the next two characters lined up of who the unpopular opinions are going to be on, but still comment another character you might want to see in this series. I'll write them down in the list and eventually we'll make our way towards that character. But everyone, that is all I have for you on this one, and I hope you all enjoyed the video, and until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.